Hello there, fellow cultists. This is DM Nell, and I'm coming back to you with another video. And this time I am going to talk about the virtual tabletop that I've been playing around with, which is Foundry. Now, if you have been following my videos, you know that I have at least a couple out there where I talk about using Roll20 for my Shadow of the Demon Lord games, and that's what I have been using up to this point. And I just want to make one thing clear before I get really even started. There's nothing wrong with Roll20. Roll20 is great. I've enjoyed it for many years in both my D&D games and my Shadow of the Demon Lord games. So I have no problem with Roll20 as a virtual tabletop. I think it's excellent at what it does. There are differences, however, between Roll20 and other virtual tabletops, and pros and cons, and that's what I'm exploring right now with my Shadow of the Demon Lord game. I'm exploring other virtual tabletops that may perhaps be a better fit for my game. And so the tabletop I'm exploring right now is Foundry, and the reason for that is because I've heard a lot of good things about Foundry. I wanted to check it out, and I wanted to see, how well it would work for my game. So I went ahead and purchased it. And Foundry is something you have to purchase. It's not something that you can trial. It costs $50, and once you get it, you download it onto your computer and you own it. It's yours. No subscription model. Nothing else you have to do except fire it up and start playing and invite your friends. But there are certain things that you can do to have it emulate the Roll20 model, which is a web-based virtual tabletop. And that's one of the things I want to talk about. The differences between Roll20 and Foundry for Shadow of the Demon Lord. Now, there are lots of there's lots of comparison videos out there, so I'm not trying to copy those. If you want to see Foundry versus Roll20, they're usually mostly about Dungeons and Dragons, but you get the drift, you get the gist. I've watched plenty of those myself, and I think they're great videos. They actually helped me to decide on whether or not I wanted to take the leap on Foundry. But I'm not trying to copy those here. What I'm trying to do with this video is to show how the Shadow of the Demon Lord game system works in Foundry for me so far after playing around with it, and how it differs from Roll20. So there may be some overlap on some things I talk about, but I'm not worried about that. I just want to help you guys understand some of the things that I struggled with in trying to understand Foundry and how it would work for my game. Okay, having said that, what you're seeing on your screen right here is the login screen for my game. And if you watch some of those Foundry videos, you'll know that you have to set up a game world, you have to set up a game system. And again, I'm not going to go through all that because those other videos explain that better than I could. So just right off the bat, that is a difference between Roll20 and Shadow of the Demon Lord, is that Roll20 is pretty easy. Once you subscribe and you log in, that's it, you're done. But it takes a little bit more work for setting up a game in Foundry. And once you set up your game, then it's pretty easy to get in and start playing. But it takes a little bit of work to get there. I've already done all that work, so we're going to skip to actually getting into the game. So this is the login screen, and I can put a description over here of the world or the campaign that I'm running. I haven't done that yet. I'm not sure I'm going to. I'm not sure my players would actually care to read that. But the actual login stuff is right here. So you have to set your game up so that it has yourself and all the players that you want in the game. And so, as you can see, there are several that are listed here. And one of them is the Game Master, which I should be able to select, but for some reason I can't. So I'm going to have to go back to Setup and get a thing fixed before I can go back in. The reason it's doing that is because last time I was in the campaign, I was in there as a player. You can see I I set myself up as a player. And I usually do that with a virtual tabletop just so I can see the player's perspective and understand what they see versus what I see. And so that is one of the reasons why I set myself up as a character. But since the last time I was in there as a character, now I have to go back in and I have to go back in as a GM. Okay, so this is what I was talking about before. You have to set up your worlds, your different worlds, and install the game system that applies to that world for Foundry. So this is the world that I'm using. I just called it Earth, and the system Shadow the Demon Lord. So once that is all set up, then all you have to do is launch the world, and it takes you right back here. And then I should be able to log in as the game master and join the game. Now you can also set it up with password. So in the event that you don't want strangers coming into your world, I'm not exactly sure how that would happen, but I suppose it could, because they allow you to create an access key to keep the privacy level high on your game. Also allows you to include session details here if you want to plan for your next session, and put a date on there for your players. You can add that here. Okay, so join the game session. That gets me actually into my game. All right, so now one thing that I want to point out right now that is different between Foundry and Shadow the Demon Lord is that Foundry and Roll20 is that Roll20 is a web-based application, meaning that all its content is kept in the cloud. It's searchable within the application itself. So, for example, in the art library for Shadow the Demon Lord, any art that I purchased on their marketplace, or any art that I've uploaded to my account, I can search for it and pull it into my games pretty easily, pretty quickly. I found out in playing around with with Foundry, is that it's not quite that easy with Foundry. So this is one of the cons that I picked up on pretty immediately, is that ease of use for bringing in artwork at the spur of the moment during a game is not quite as effective or efficient in Foundry. I don't know if that's going to be changing. And also, truth be known, I'm still learning Foundry, so there may be ways to do things that I don't know how to do yet, either baked into the core system or through use of a module that you can download. And I'll talk about modules in a little bit. But the fact of the matter is, if I just wanted to drag a new image into this scene that I have set up here, this map that I have set up here, there's no way for me to look into my art library, do a search for a specific thing. So let's say I wanted an elemental. In Roll20, you can just, in the art library, you can just use the search function, type in elemental. Not only will it pull up any elementals that you have that you've purchased on the marketplace or you've uploaded yourself, but it'll also search the internet for anything that is elemental related, which is a pretty cool feature, and it's come in handy for me many times. Foundry, I have not figured out how to do that, if you can't even do that. So that is a check mark in the con column. So it took me a while to figure out that in order for me to be able to pull artwork into Foundry, into my game in Foundry, I actually have to have all of my artwork in a directory that I have to set up myself. So when you install Foundry, when you purchase it and when you download it into your computer and install it, it automatically builds a directory for the things that Foundry needs in order to function. And so you use that directory to supplement your game. So in order for me to be able to pull artwork that I purchased and that I have in my computer, I have to create an art folder in my directory, and I have to organize it in my directory so that I can go to my directory and pull from it when I need to. for whatever things that I need. So for example, looking at this map right here, this is a typical street scene in any type of fantasy city. And as you can see, I've got people just kind of lounging around and maybe a shop owner over here. So if I wanted to pull in another commoner just to be standing on the street, there is a way to do that. It's just not as easy or as quick as it would be in Roll20. I've already spent some time trying to build my art library in my Foundry directory. So that takes a little bit of work, but it's well worth the work if you're going to use Foundry as your virtual tabletop, which, truth be told, I haven't decided whether I'm going to or not. I still need to actually run a few games in Foundry to decide whether or not it is a better fit for Shadow of the Demon Lord versus just continuing to use Roll20. Okay, so pulling a commoner into this map, what I would have to do is I would have to go over to these controls that are over here on the left-hand side of the screen of the browser, and one of them is tile controls. So when I click on tile controls, it opens up three boxes over here on the side. One of them is a tile browser, and that's the one I would click in order to access my asset library. So this window is an image or a video browser, so that is what you would use to find your either videos or images that you have in your directory. And you can see it defaults to user data. It also has core data, and then it has my assets library. So it also has three folders in here. These are the three folders that come with Foundry. These are built into your directory by Foundry, and Foundry utilizes these three folders for the functionality of the program itself. Now, since I don't want to mess with those, what I do is I create my own folders in the asset library. So I click on Asset Library, and you can see the folders that I set up. I have an art folder, I have game banners, and worlds. And actually, I just lied. These are also folders that were set up with Foundry when I downloaded it. At least I believe the worlds is and art is. I'm not sure about game banners, but I don't remember putting that in there. But at any rate, the point is that in order to access my art, I had to put it someplace, and I put it in an art folder. So opening up the art folder, I have subfolders in here, and I try to organize this in a way that I can find things when I need it on the fly during a game, when my mind is going 100 miles an hour in 10 different directions. So I have, 6 folders here. One is battle maps, one is illustrations. I have monster tokens, PC tokens, scenery, and world maps. So if I am going to be pulling a commoner onto this battle map that is already loaded into Foundry, then I would need to find where I put my commoners. Now I would most likely put my commoners in the monster folder because they would be NPCs, and I would put NPCs and humanoid type things in the monster folder normally, but in this case I chose not to do that. I chose to keep the just monstrous humanoids in the monster folder, so you can see that I have lots of monster humanoids in the monster folder, but I don't actually have my NPCs. So what I need to do is I need to back up out of this and go back into my PC tokens. Now, PC tokens folder probably should be renamed PC/NPC so I can remember that better in the future. But when I click on that, I can look and see, well, this is where I have all my folders for the various paths and classes if I'm playing D&D, and also races or ancestries. And then you can see I have a folder down here for NPCs. So clicking on that folder, I have commoners, cultists, nobles, pirates, slaves, prisoners, and thugs. So what I want is more commoners on the street. So what I would do is click on my commoners. These are all art assets that I purchased on Roll20 in their marketplace and downloaded on my computer. I own them now, and I can use them in any way that I want as long as I'm not actually trying to sell a product utilizing these tokens. So I have moved these tokens into my art directory so that I can use them as I feel appropriate. So let's say I want this old friar to be one of the guys on my street. All I got to do is grab him, drag and drop him, and he appears on my street scene. And you can see he's pretty big, so I'm going to have to resize him, but that's pretty easy to do. Let me also grab this barmaid, and let me stick her down here in this empty space. And then a talking noble over here. Let me grab him, and I will throw him over here. Okay, so now that I have all the commoners that I want for my street scene, all I got to do is close this out, and then I can deal with the resizing of these guys. So when you see as I hover my mouse over these guys, a box appears around them, and it has a circle in the corner. All I got to do is drag that circle down to the size that I want, and there you go. I have my noble resized appropriately. Now all I gotta do is just move him to wherever I want him on the screen, and I think I want him over here talking to this young lady, and we're done with him. Then we go to the friar here, do the same thing, just kind of drag until he is a size that I like, and then pretty much done with him. And then finally the barmaid, I need to scroll down a little bit. Resize her. All right, and move her over here. Maybe make her a little bit larger because this guy down here is pretty big. All right, so there you go. Three commoner tokens added fairly quickly to the scene. So as you can see, once you spend the time to build your art directory, it's pretty easy to drag and drop the art that you want into the virtual tabletop and onto the map that you want. The only problem that you have is that there's no search function like there is in Roll20 that searches not only your art assets that you have in your computer, but any art assets with a keyword and that would appear on the internet. So that is one. I wouldn't call it a check mark. Well, the inability to do the search and just drag and drop from the internet or your art library from an art library tab is definitely a con because you have to do all this work in order to get your art assets in the right place. But once you have them in the right place, it's pretty much as easy to drag and drop onto the scene as it is in Roll20. Okay, having said all that, another difference would be with the maps. So the maps, again, you have to have maps in order to run on a virtual tabletop utilizing a grid. Or you don't have to, but I like to. You know, if you want to just use a bare grid, the Foundry comes with a bare grid. You can see as I scroll out, the bare grid is the background for this map. So if I hadn't inserted this map to this bare grid, then it would just be this gray grid, and I can draw on it, a map on it if I want to. But that's not how I roll. I like to have battle maps that are already created. So I would, in order to get these battle maps into the scene, I actually have to go to my art library once again, find the map that I want, and load it into Roll20. Now again, this is not as not Roll20, but Foundry. Now again, this is not as easy as it is in Roll20. There's a little work that has to be done. So what you have to do initially is you have to be on your scenes directory. Scenes are what are referred to as pages, I believe, in Roll20. In Roll20, your pages are in a gray area across the top of your screen with a drop down to minimize it and maximize it. But in Foundry, all your scenes are kept over here. Now, the nice thing about Foundry that Roll20 doesn't have is that I can create folders for my scene. So if I wanted to, I could create a folder to house all of these maps that I have for my adventure in a folder. And then I can create a separate folder for the maps that I want to use in my next adventure. The folder capability is not something that is currently available in Roll20, and I'm not sure that they're if they're working on it or not. But it's difficult in Roll20 to create a bunch of maps and prepare for future adventures because you have to keep scrolling sideways, and there's no way to organize it into a folder to keep the noise level down in that page drop-down menu. So that's one of the things I don't like about Roll20, but I do like about Foundry is the organization for the maps is much better in Foundry. I just haven't utilized it yet. So I have 4 maps in here, 4 battle maps. Well, 3 battle maps actually, and 1 actual city scene. And so all those scenes are actually up here at the top of your screen as well. And if you don't like that, if you want more screen real estate, you can always minimize that and get rid of those. But if I want to switch from the scene that I have here to this map of Eads, which is the name of this town, I really just have to activate it. And then my map comes up. So this is a map of the town that my players will be adventuring in, and so I put this in here for their reference. There's this piece of art out of one of the products for Shadow of the Demon Lord for the City of Dreams, and I just saved that artwork into my art directory, and I uploaded it into this game. So as you can see, I've got a bunch of tokens over here. And by the way, this is a default token for characters. And what I would do before my actual campaign starts is change these to the token artwork that each player wants for their character. Okay, so getting the map loaded on here, like I said, takes a little bit of work, but it's basically the same process as getting the artwork for tokens into the map, except you have to do a little preliminary work to get the map to align with the grid properly. Otherwise, you're going to be doing some manual work to make that happen. So let's look at a battle map. Going back to my my Eads, my Street of Eads. This battle map here took a little bit of work to align with the grid because it already has a grid built in, but that built-in grid has to be sized appropriately so that it matches the built-in grid in Foundry. So what you would do is once you go to upload this map from your art library, you have to tell it what dimensions the map consists of. So you need to tell it how many pixels consist of its width and how many pixels consist of its height. And then you have to tell it the actual grid size. So this is pixels per square. And for this particular map, it is 70 pixels per square. So once you have those dimensions set, and you also want to ensure that you have the grid units properly set, because if you want to use the measurement tool that's built in here, you don't want it going by feet because we use yards in Shadow of the Demon Lord. So for the grid units, you want to be sure that you specify that each square represents 1 yard. So once you put yards in here, you've got your grid size, and then you've got your width and height, then you're pretty much good to go. You can add this to your game just by hitting the save changes. But if you want to add a little bit more to this, there are some options here which are pretty cool that are not available in Roll20. And one of those options is to include a weather effect. So what the 3 options that are available currently, and I'm hoping that they expand this, would be autumn leaves, rain, or snow. So if I wanted to add, say, rain to this map, All that I have to do is click that on the drop down, then save it, and it adds this rain falling down on the city, which is pretty cool. I love this stuff. If I wanted to emulate this in Roll20, I would have to purchase an animated token set that has rain, and then I would have to drag and drop the rain template into my map, and then I would have to put it, make sure that it's on a layer that doesn't interfere with my ability to manipulate the art that is on the map. So it's a little bit more complicated to get the same effect in Roll20 as it is in Foundry, which is one of the things that I do like about Foundry. But I don't want rain, so I'm just going to get rid of it, and we're back to normal. So the grid aligns perfectly with the grid on the map, and I am good to go here. So that's pretty much all you got to do to get this in here. Again, it takes some preliminary work to get this battle map into my art directory. And then once it's in my, actually, let me just show you that. So the art directory, just like with the tokens, the art directory would be my assets library, and then I would go to the battle maps folder that I have, and choose the folder that has the artwork that I'm looking for. Once you have that selected and you have the art, the specific piece of art that you want, then you hit select file, and you're good to go. But again, it takes some preliminary work to get that in your art directory, and that's work that you don't have to do in Roll20. So really, the key, I think, difference between being able to utilize Foundry more effectively and more efficiently is to do a lot of preliminary work to get things built into the directory so that you can find them when you need them. Once they're in the directory, it's usually pretty easy to get it where you need to be. Okay, so that's all I want to talk about as far as that goes. So there are so many things I could talk about on this video, and maybe I'll do a follow-up video after I have my after I am able to run a game with this. I have yet to run a game. I did hold a session 0 the other night, but we didn't get a chance to actually play. I had to show the players how to navigate through Foundry, and that spent most of the evening. But let me show you the character sheets. So characters and NPCs and monsters are all referred to as actors in Foundry. So you have to go to the actors directory over here on the right sidebar. It's this icon right there, and you have to import, or you have to bring these things into being. So you can do that by using this feature down here, create actor, and you can also create folders like I have here. So I have my monsters all in a folder, I have my NPCs in a folder, and then I have the player characters in a folder. So if I were to pull up one of these characters, you can see that the character sheet looks a lot different than it does in Roll20. In Roll20, it kind of actually looks like the character sheet that was actually built for the Shadow of the Demon Lord game, with the circle and the pentagram, and the smaller little circles. This one doesn't look like that, although it does have the Shadow of the Demon Lord logo over here. It doesn't actually look like the same character sheet. So that's one thing I don't like about this. I really dig the Shadow of the Demon Lord character sheet, and it took me a while to get used to finding it everywhere, finding all the things that I need to find in the Roll20 character sheet. And I have to say, the Roll20 character sheet is awesome. The guys that worked on it put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into that character sheet, and made it a great character sheet. However, it does have limitations in Roll20 that are solved in Foundry. So one of those limitations is getting boons and banes into the initiative turn order. So in Roll20, there's no easy way to get fast turns and slow turns in the turn order. You actually have to use an API and some macros to get that what I would think to be simple functionality into the turn order. I do have that on my character sheet in Roll20 because I know a guy and they created the API script and the macros. So I've been using that and I love it. But I don't have to do any of that in Foundry. It is baked into the character sheet. So if the character wants to be wants to go fast or slow, it's actually a feature that is built into the token itself. So let me just real quickly go back to the. I know I'm supposed to be doing the character sheets, but since this came up, I want to be sure to show you this before I finish the video. Okay, so I'm going to close this. I'm going to go back to my map, and I'm going to take one of these characters, and I'm going to right-click on it. When you right-click on the character token, it gives you menu options all around it. This is super cool because that means that the player can manage these things themselves without me having to do it for them. And the fewer things I have to do for the players, the better it is for me. So it has a place for the health and damage here, as well as the health and damage bars on the token itself when the token is not right-clicked. But I can also set the token so that it has a certain type of vision. And you can do the same thing in Roll20 as the GM. But as a player, you also have options that you don't have in Roll20 for your token. One of those options is I can toggle visibility on and off. So if I want to say my character is invisible because they drank a potion of invisibility, or they found a ring of invisibility, or whatever the case is, I can make them invisible simply by clicking on this little icon in the upper right, and that makes them transparent, which would denote that they are invisible. And then to get them back, you just click that icon again, and they are back. If I need to put myself on the turn order, I just click on this button right here, and if the GM has activated the turn order, then that would put me on the turn order automatically. I wouldn't have to go to my character sheet, hunt for the initiative button to do that. I can do it all from my token itself. And one other thing that may be cool or may not, I haven't really tried it out in the game yet. I'm not sure how often it would come up, but let's say this guy's a rogue and he climbs up onto the roof. He is no longer on ground level. All these guys are on ground level, but this dude, he's up on the roof that is 10 yards off the ground. So to denote that he is at a different elevation, the player can change the elevation of their token simply by typing in a number in that square, and then that tells you right at the top here that this character, this token, is 10 yards off the ground or off of ground level. So that's a pretty neat feature. Just as a reminder, of course, I could also look and see that they are on a rooftop, but the rooftop, being on a rooftop, doesn't tell me how high off the ground they are. This rooftop could be 10 yards, but this rooftop over here could be 15 yards. So by having that on there, that helps the GM and the player remember the elevation that token is at and that character is at, in the event this guy wants to jump off the roof, or they want to, or they get knocked off the roof, and you would know how far of a fall they have to endure and how much damage you can figure out from that. So anyway, I wanted to show that before I went back to the character sheet. So back to the character sheet. You can see that all the normal attributes are listed here. And as far as character sheets go, I haven't played with it enough to decide whether or not I like it as much or better than Roll20. It's different, and the stuff is in different places. But one thing that I do want to highlight with Foundry that Roll20 does not have for Shadow of the Demon Lord, and that is a compendium. So a compendium becomes pretty important when you want to automate certain things so that you can just drag and drop it into the character sheet. Otherwise, you're just typing everything manually, which can get pretty exhausting. So the more you can automate, the better it is for you and your players, and the faster it is for you and your players to to level up and to create your characters to begin with. So the guy that created this character sheet, and I apologize, I don't know who did create the character sheet, already created a baked-in compendium, which is the Demon Lord Compendium, and he created 4 folders. An ammunition folder, an armor folder, a weapons folder, and a weapons creature folder. So what these do, if I were to open up this weapons folder, a window appears over here which shows all the different weapons that are available in, I believe, the core rulebook of Shadow of the Demon Lord. So if I wanted to equip this guy with, say, a sickle, all I have to do is drag and drop the sickle into the character sheet, and there you go. Now, if this character somehow had a novice path that gave a boon or a bane for using a sickle or using a particular type of weapon, then you can modify the attributes of the weapon to include a boon or bane. For when you roll, automatically it will include that boon or bane in the roll. So that's pretty cool. And of course, you can set it so that it rolls based off the appropriate modifier. This is a finesse weapon, so I can use strength or agility. And this guy is an arcanist, so I would choose agility since his agility is higher than his strength. Then you just close the sheet and you're good to go. The thing that I really liked about this is that not only does it have weapons and monster weapons so that I can create NPCs and monsters fairly easily with these attack forms by dragging and dropping, but being a guy that enjoys running spellcasters, one thing I don't like about Roll20 is that if I'm running a spellcaster in Shadow of the Demon Lord, I have to manually type every freaking spell into my character sheet, which is a huge pain in the butt. So to make life easier for my players, because that's what I'm all about, I'm just that kind of nice guy, I created in the compendium 3 folders currently, and I'm going to be creating more, but each of these folders has a spell tradition. So this folder here is the Arcana spell tradition. This one is the Battle spell tradition, and this one is a Life spell tradition. So when I build this compendium, I would go in and now I do have to create these. So it's a lot of work for me, but not for my players. And I want my players to have the ability to just open up a compendium for the spell tradition they want, find the spell that they want for their character, and drag and drop it into their character sheet. So for an example, let's say that this guy is a magician, and he is picking his 0 rank spell of Arcane Armor. All I gotta do is grab Arcane Armor, drop it over here, and boom, you're done. All the character now has to do is click on the hyperlink for the Arcane Armor, and it tells all about it in the chat sidebar. Now, again, I have to put all this information in there myself because it doesn't come baked into the character sheet. But just having the ability to create your own compendium in Foundry is huge. I haven't even thought out all of the implications of this and what all I could automate for my game. I'm still kind of scratching the surface of how I can use this compendium. But just starting off with this is huge. I love it. And I can't wait to get more of the spells, not only from the core spell book, but also from our, the Occult Philosophy supplement that came out last year. Maybe it was earlier this year. I can't remember. But anyway, so that my players can choose from those as well. instead of having to go out and buy the occult philosophy PDF, I can just put the spells from that in here, and my players can, pick the spells that they want to choose. Excuse me, I got the hiccups. That they want to choose from either the core rulebook or the occult philosophy. Now, okay. Now, having looked at this, I think that I probably should go in and just put a parentheses and say whether it's what the source material is, either the core rulebook or occult philosophy, just for my own, or some other supplement, just for my own mental health. So that might be an enhancement that I do at some point. But first, I just want to get as many spell traditions built in here so that my players can start taking advantage of those for their spell casters. So this is a really cool feature that is not in Roll20, and that is a huge selling point for me. Okay, so as far as the rest of the character sheet goes, you know what? It's a character sheet. You got your character tab that has all the relative information for that. You do have the sidebar here, which has some of the things that can change throughout the course of a game. So as you take damage, you just click on the damage, the word damage here, and that increases the damage that you take. If you left click on it, if you right click on it, it reduces the damage. Let's say because you drink a healing potion, it reduces the damage for every click that you make. So left click increases damage, left click increases damage, right click decreases damage. And then the maximum would be your health over here. Same thing with insanity and same thing with corruption. If you need to indicate that you're injured, if that's important to your game, then you can click on the injured button there just to get that blood splatter. That's pretty cool. And then, of course, your healing rate automatically populates when you populate that information in to your attributes. So, that is your starting page. Your attributes are up here on the top. Your level is up over here. Your power score is over here. Your defense. So everything you need for an encounter, or everything you need to reference it, or most of the things you need to reference are right here. For combat, however, you have a separate tab for that. This is where your weapons and armor and ammunition is tracked. Then you have your talents folder. This is where you put all your path specific talents in here, or ancestry specific talents. Then you have your magic for your spells. Go ahead and get rid of that. And of course your inventory, as you pick up loot and buy stuff, you can track that all here. So as far as the character sheet goes, it checks off all the requirement boxes. And again, the only quibble I have about this is the fact that it doesn't look like the traditional Shadow the Demon Lord character sheet, which I can live with. Your character artwork will appear up here, so I would have to assign artwork to this character sheet, and then once that's done, it would show up here. And then I have to change the default token. So this is the default token that comes with the character sheet. I would have to change the artwork on that to look like the art that the player chooses. And again, that would be in my my assets library, and I would go to my assets library, art folder, and PC tokens. And since this guy is a magician, I would just look for, I think I have him under Arcanist. Yeah, so all use magic I put under an Arcanist folder. And so, if I wanted to pick an image for my token, then I would come here and pick that image. Now, the one thing I don't like about this is that in order to change the artwork here and change the artwork on your token, you have to do it twice. You have to do it once for your token, then you have to do it once for your character sheet, which is kind of stupid. I can see where you might want to do that. Let's say I have a top-down view for my token, but I want an actual portrait view for my character sheet. then you would want the ability to do it separately, but it should have a button to copy the same art on both if you want it to be on both. The other thing the other problem I have with token art for Foundry, and again, this may be something I'm just not familiar with. Maybe it exists in here somewhere and I just haven't figured it out. But if it is, I wish somebody would educate me on that, because this is something I've been using in Roll20 frequently, and that is rollable tables for different artwork for tokens. So let's say I have a character that's a druid, and that druid can wild shape into a variety of different animals. So with Roll20, I can set up a rollable table. I can put as many artwork pieces into that rollable table that I want to represent a variety of different animals that druid could potentially shapeshift into. And then once I have that rollable table set up, then I simply just click on the token button. The token would appear on the map, and you would just right click on it to be able to change the image of the token to one of the ones that you included in the rollable table. But I have not figured out a way to do that for Foundry. There are rollable tables in Foundry, but when I was playing with it the other day, I couldn't figure out how to emulate what I just described that you can do in Roll20. So I'm getting the feeling that it's not a function that exists yet, or if it is, it might be a module that I have to download in order to be able to accomplish that. So I said the module word again, so let me just go ahead and talk about that briefly. The program that you download for Foundry is good to go out of the box. You can play perfectly well with it out of the box, but to enhance it, you can download modules that the community creates, and these modules are for the most part I believe they're all free. I haven't seen any that you have to pay for. But once you have the module, then you upload the module to your game, and that enables you to modify certain features or certain aspects of the Foundry system, and the character sheet or the tokens, or any other aspect of Foundry. And I'm just kind of playing. I've done one module so far, and that is to enable the ping functionality. Ping functionality is very important for me to be able to point out things on the map, so that the players know where I'm referencing at any point in time. That does not come baked into Foundry, which is one thing I don't like about that. I think that every virtual tabletop should have the ability for the game master and the players to ping anything on the map. But there is a module called Pings that once I loaded it into Foundry, it gave me the ability to ping, and it also gave the players the ability to ping. So that is what a module does. It modifies how the basic functionality of Foundry works. So those are the things that I have played with, and the things that I feel comfortable talking about. If I do a follow-up on this, which I probably will, I think I'll talk about the dynamic lighting, how it differs from Roll20. I think I'll talk about, well, you know what, that's probably it, but I'll talk about how the interface, the user interface, how easy it is to manipulate things in-game versus outside of a game. So I think I would like to wait until I actually run a game before I do that. So dynamic lighting, how easy it is to manage the user interface during a game, and the combat tracker, I think, is the other thing I want to say for the next game, or for the next video. So I think at this point in time those are the main things that I wanted to talk about in this video. Hopefully, wow, hopefully, hitting puberty again, so excuse me. Hopefully, this will help some of you avoid some of the things that was confusing me about Foundry and that I kind of struggled with. While we're at it, let me just talk about a couple of easy things. In order to move the map around, let's say I am scrolled in pretty far, and I want to look at the lower right-hand corner. Forever, I was hitting the arrow keys on my keyboard trying to move my map around, and it wasn't reacting. So it took me a little bit to figure out that you have to right-click and hold down your right mouse button, and then drag your map to wherever you want in order to do that. So I'm not the brightest GM in the world out there. So yeah, I finally figured it out. Yay me. You can use your mouse wheel to enlarge or to pan in or out of the map. That's pretty easy. And so that took me a little while to figure out. So I just wanted to get that out there pretty quickly so that you guys don't waste as much time as I did trying to understand that. Yeah, so I think that's it. I'm not going to belabor this anymore. Thanks for watching this video. As always, I do these videos to try to get the word out on Shadow of the Demon Lord to increase the popularity of the game. As you can tell, I'm not great at doing these videos. I'm only doing it because I'm not seeing anybody else do it. So that's not only a challenge for somebody out there to do it better than me so I can stop doing these videos, but it is also a plea for you to like my videos if you think this is a worthy effort. And liking the videos increases the chance that one of my videos will come up in the search algorithm of YouTube. So that's always helpful. If somebody goes in looking for stuff for Shadow of the Demon Lord and searches Shadow of the Demon Lord, right now, today, what they're going to see is a lot of videos that are pretty old. Most of them are either interviews with Robert Schwab or they are actual plays. And if you're like me, you want to see some videos about the game itself and just describing the game and talking about it from a user perspective. That's why I do these videos. I'm a user, I'm a game master, I'm also a player. I just want to talk about the game and what I like about it, what I don't like about it, what I think is something that a direction the game should go. This is shit I like to talk about. That's why I call the series Shadow of the Demon Lord Talk. It's just me talking to you guys out there in internet land world. So yeah, like my videos if you think this is a worthy effort. And if you have any ideas that you want me to chat about on this video, then feel free to leave a comment and I will consider it. No promises though, because I talk about what I like to talk about, and if you ask me to talk about an aspect of the game that I don't like, then I'll probably just ignore you. But otherwise, I have taken suggestions before. That's how my Balgrendia video got made. So yeah, leave a comment if you want to. Otherwise, you can just watch the video and be done with it. All right, so that's it. Thanks again for watching, and have a great fall. I will do another video probably in another week or two. And salute to the Demon Lord. Hail.